West Virginia was one of 5 states to hold primaries yesterday. According to the state's Secretary of State, voters there cast absentee ballots in record numbers. As of 2 a.m. Tuesday morning, 262,000 voters applied for an absentee ballot, which accounts for 21% of West Virginia's voters. That's a huge increase from the 2016 primary, when just 6,700 registered voters cast an absentee ballot. But absentee and mail-in balloting has been a big concern, with many, including President Trump, believing it leads to fraud. So, did West Virginia have any issues with that? Joining us is West Virginia's Attorney General, Patrick Morrisey, who won the Republican nomination for re-election yesterday. Congratulations, General.
Well, thank you very much, and it's great to be with you today, talk about this such an important topic. So I'm looking forward to diving in.
Yeah. So tell me what, the media sort of has cast all voting with one broad brush, calling it mail-in voting. What did you guys do in West Virginia, and what kind of levers of integrity were there?
Absolutely. So what happened is during COVID-19, my office was asked to look at the legal definition of who could get an absentee ballot. So that's obviously an important question. And during COVID-19, we recognized that the universe of people that might qualify would be a little bit broader, because some people might have health problems, or they may be immune compromised. They may be reluctant to go to the physical polling place. So we had actually interpreted to allow for more people to have access to absentee ballot. Now, here's then what happened. There was a broad mailing done, sent out absentee ballot applications to every registered voter in the state. Now, that's not the way I would like to do it, to be honest. I think the way that you would do it is to make sure that you have a closed system where there's absolutely guaranteed voter ID, there's a chain of custody that you can track, and it's closed enough so you can limit fraud. Interestingly, in West Virginia, within 2 hours after Twitter had gone after the president and said that absentee ballot fraud didn't occur, we had announced the findings of our investigation, and there was a criminal complaint against a mail carrier who was alleged to perpetuate absentee ballot fraud. So we're doing our best to make sure there are tight systems in West Virginia. That's one that kind of got away from folks, but I think that you have to have a tight system if you're going to have any expansion of absentee.
I totally agree, and that's something the media doesn't want to talk about, that chain of custody that you brought up. They want to ignore the potential fraud. But you brought that case up, and it's amazing, because if you listen to the mainstream media, there's no fraud. It doesn't exist, totally made up by the president and everyone else on the right. So tell us about this interesting incident that you had in West Virginia that clearly isn't getting covered.
Well, I think it was fascinating, because we had heard, and the Secretary of State had obviously asked us to investigate. Our investigator went out, conducted the interview, did the affidavit that formed the basis of the criminal complaint. And it was a rural mail carrier who was actually trying to convert Democrat votes to Republican votes. But my position, and that of the Secretary of State, U.S. Attorney, probably everyone on TV today, is if you see absentee ballot fraud, you go after it, regardless of who's trying to steal from who. But it points out that when you have paper ballots and you're not tracking it in a closed system, that fraud can occur. And that is very troublesome. Now, obviously, this is a criminal complaint. People are presumed innocent until proven guilty. But I think what we've seen through this process is that before you go hog wild with these broader systems, you're going to have to do it a lot better. In West Virginia, we're going to have to go a lot further to ensure that closed system, chain of custody, to make sure that there's no allegation of absentee ballot fraud. And Sean, I would mention one other thing. In 2010, we had people that went to prison for absentee ballot fraud in West Virginia, in Lincoln County. This is not a made-up concept, a myth. The president was exactly right to mention this. And as I mentioned, this was really odd that he gets chastised by Twitter and some of the fake news. And lo and behold, we have a real live case of absentee ballot fraud in our hands.
Yeah, it's interesting that people want to say there's nothing. You have a case there. Are you guys doing anything, any additional measures with putting stamps on these ballots for the November election, or to make sure that people have an easy access to be able to put these in themselves? Or I know that has been an issue in some other states.
I think we have to look in West Virginia and do a little bit of a retrospective review to make sure that all the systems that were done now, what changes need to be made for the fall. I actually think that what happened this spring is kind of a one-time situation. So I'm hopeful that's going to change a little bit and that people will be able to get access to the absentee ballots when they legitimately need them, when there's a health reason or they qualify under the law. I don't think the numbers should be as broad for the fall, but to the extent that they're absentee ballots, I'd like to put some tightened systems in place to prevent the kind of fraud that we've heard occur.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think it's just not a question of how much has occurred, but how we prevent it. And that's what the media doesn't want to talk about. They don't want to tell you what potential there is. And when you mail everyone a ballot, you have no idea what fraud there is because someone could be taking it, mailing it back, handing it off, et cetera. So I appreciate the efforts you're taking to this and look forward to having you back as we get closer to the election.
Absolutely. Well, it's great to be on. Thank you. And I'm going to note for everyone watching, in West Virginia, we're looking out for your voters' rights. We're big supporters of President Trump. And go online at patrickmorrisey.com. Follow our campaign. Let us know what happened. We had a big win yesterday in the primary. We're ready for the general election.
All right. There's a good politician with their website right out in front. You get an A+ from the staff there. Congratulations on last night.
Hey, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
All right, when we return, Lindsay takes it to the streets to find out what you have to say. You're not going to want to miss this next.